Good morning, everybody. Welcome to day 14 of our time of fasting and prayer. Again, as my introduction always comes to you, I truly believe that the Lord has blessed you and continue to bless you during the season. Our devotion this morning will be coming from Paul's letter to his son in ministry, Timothy. It's in 1 Timothy chapter 6. And I'm going to read verses 6 through 10 for you this morning as our devotion. This is the Apostle Paul writing to his son. He said, "But godliness actually is a means of great gain when it's accompanied by contentment. For we have brought nothing into this world, and we can take nothing out of it either. And if we have food and covering, with these things we shall be content. For those who want to get rich fall into temptation, and a snare and many foolish and harmful desires, which plunge men into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is a root of all evil, and some by longing after it have wandered the faith, and have pierced themselves with many pain." Now, again, as we meditate on these words, we see the Apostle Paul telling his son in the ministry about the notion of contentment. He said godliness is a means of great gain. The context here has to do with some people that were kind of corrupting the gospel for the sake of gain. But Paul is trying to tell his son Timothy not to be like they are, that you don't seek to be godly, use godliness as a form of gain, material wealth. But he calls it godliness is great gain if it's mingled with contentment. You know, you actually say, what is contentment? Contentment is to be satisfied with the position that God places you. Now, contentment does not mean you don't strive to make better of yourself. No, you should. You should seek to use the gift and talent that God has given you to glorify His name. But contentment means how much you feel in terms of where God has placed you. Is there a contentment that I'm trusting God with everything I have in terms of my future? I'm trusting God that even now I'm positioned here. I'm trusting that God is able to meet my need. That is what I believe contentment has to do with. Trusting God in every situation and circumstances that He has placed us. But Paul goes further. He said, you know what? We brought nothing into this world. I remember many years ago, my son is 17, he's going to be 17 next year, and I remember being in that hospital room when he came, and the joy in the room was so great. But he brought nothing into the world. He didn't come with a Cadillac, he didn't come with a bag of money. I wish he did, but he did not. But he came just like he is. Naked he came, and naked we will return into this world. Paul said, if you have food and covering, let us be content with all these things. And it comes to remind us, say, those who seek to get rich fall into many temptations. Why? Because if you make money an end in itself, that's what it means to seek to get rich. Then you fall into many temptations, many snare, and many people plunge themselves into sorrow and destruction. Because you got to know that, in doing that, you leave back the most important thing, which is God. You leave behind the relationship and the desire to put God first, and you make that wealth the idol which you tend to say, and that ultimately leads men into ruin. And Paul comes and said, for the love of money is a root. Now, watch that word. An indefinite article is a root, not the root, a root of all evil. That means that, the more you love money, the more you tend to weigh and stray into all kinds of evil. And it says, some longing for this have wandered from the faith. The key thing that can make you ultimately wander from Jesus is when the attractions and the brightness and the glamour of this world become centerfold in your life. And on this morning, as we come to reflect on these words of the Apostle Paul, ask yourself the question, where is my love? Am I content? Do I trust God even at this position that God has placed me? Is money the motivating factor of my life? Or is Jesus that which is driving me? I pray that Jesus becomes that which drives you. That every day of your life you crave to have more of Him and less of yourself. And I believe if Jesus becomes that which drives your life, you will be exactly at the point that that Jesus himself wants you to be. This morning, reflect on that, will you? And we'll meet next time as we go over some other things in devotion. Again, I leave you with God's blessing. May God keep you. May God bless you. Amen.